I was completely spellbound during Sharkwater Extinction, not just because of the non-stop action, but because it's an absolutely beautiful look at sharks. What was the most exciting moment for you during filming?
Oh, it's hard to pick one. There's so many beautiful moments in this film and so many exciting moments. I would say that, well, I'm going to pick two if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
One is my most favorite shot that I've ever seen on camera before. Rob and I were at Cat Island in the Bahamas, swimming with oceanic whitetips, which are an amazing species. Talk about majestic and spellbinding, and it's just like, wow, these creatures are incredible. They have these long pectoral fins, and they glide through the water like airplanes of sorts, So swimming with them was off the charts, but on one particular evening I remember very well, the sun was going down and we were free diving, so we were coming back up to the surface pretty regularly, and the sharks were following us and hanging out with us at the surface. And Rob and I were having a conversation on the surface of the water. The sun just starts to dip below the horizon. The sharks come up to the surface, and then there was a bunch of seabirds that came down into the frame as well. And Rob was like, whoa, what just happened? He takes his camera and he takes an under-over shot, a 50-50 shot, meaning half is underneath the surface of the water and half is above. And the shot that came out of that is the best looking shot I've ever seen before on film. It's one of those magical Robbie moments that just takes you into a completely different world, and that frame is stuck in my mind as probably the most beautiful landscape I've ever seen. Watching these creatures from the air come down and meet with the creatures from the sea, and then interacting with both of us, and us sitting there just smiling at each other, laughing like, is this really happening? And it was. And that's a memory I'll always cherish. Another incredible moment was the one in California when we were working with drift nets just off our own coast in our own backyard. These mile-long walls of death that catch everything in their wake were something that Rob and I were very passionate about, changing the way things go down, especially at home, So we look at all these different countries and maybe even point the finger and say, you shouldn't be doing things like that. Yet in California, we're fishing in this massively destructive and antiquated way of not any sort of discrimination of species, just taking it all. We catch whales, dolphins, sea turtles, sharks. They're aimed at swordfish. But this isn't any way to fish, and especially if we want to continue to have some of these species in the future. So we were very interested in seeing what we could do to shine a light on this, and we did, and we went out and we ran into some trouble. You'll see the end of the film, and it's an amazing sequence. But just last Friday, through the House and through the Senate, they voted in favor of the legislation to phase out this fishery. So it's a massive victory for us.
That's
and for the
fantastic.
world. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. And that moment out there on that boat, doing the things that we did on that day, while they were, somewhat hair-raising, they've turned out with a good answer to the problem that was at hand.
Mm-hmm. Tell me how you first met Rob.
I first met Rob about 11 years ago or so. I was teaching yoga in Los Angeles, and he was on the cover of a magazine that was in one of the yoga studios I was teaching at, and there was this dude freediving with sharks in his Speedo, and I was like, who is this guy? What's he doing? That's cool, I want to do that. That looks awesome. And so I read the article. This is Rob Stewart. He's making a film called Sharkwater, and Sharkwater came out shortly after that. So of course I went to see it, and I was into the ocean and into conservation, and I see this larger-than-life character on the screen that was Robbie. It ended up being one of my very best friends of all time, and witnessing what he did in that film and his attitude of just not being stoppable, and his never taking no for an answer, and we're going to save sharks and this is how we do it, was really inspirational for me. And it was motivating enough that I called him out of the blue and was like, hey dude, what you just did was amazing. Is there anything a guy like me can do to help you? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course, everybody can help. What do you do? And I was like, I teach yoga in Los Angeles. Oh, I want to learn yoga. Yeah, we should probably be friends. I was like, cool, I'll teach you yoga. you teach me how to free dive with sharks. Let's be
Oh.
bros. And he was like, excellent. So we
Wow.
went on a trip to Mexico together very shortly after that on a yoga retreat and went free diving with whale sharks. And that was our first time in the water and our first trip together of many, many, many days that we spent in the sea.
Now, Rob always loved sharks from a young age. Did you have the same affinity for sharks that Rob did from the time that you were young?
Yeah, I did too. As growing up as a young kid, I grew up in Colorado, not that dissimilar to Rob in that we were pretty far removed from sharks and from oceans. But as a kid, I was also spellbound by these creatures and somewhat like afraid of them. You know, they were portrayed in the media as these beasts, but you know, as boys do, we like these things that are super cool: dinosaurs, dragons, predators, all these kind of things. And I was similar in that I was fascinated by these things that to me were perfectly shaped for what they were meant to do in the ocean, which was to eat. You know, so I remember as a kid wanting to do my book reports and being fascinated by sharks, but I didn't get a chance to meet them until much later in life. So and that was one of the things that Rob introduced me to and helped me to become part of, and then of course inspired me to fight for their survival and to continue working towards preserving the oceans.
What message do you think people will take away from seeing Sharkwater Extinction?
Well, I'm hopeful that they'll take the message that they can make a difference in the world, that one person can do something extraordinary. Rob was a brilliant and beautiful example of one young man that elevated his game and his vibe to a place that inspired millions of people. You know, he changed the way that so many people think. I'm not alone or unique in the fact that I saw him and what he was doing and was just moved to reach out and want to do something about it. You can hear that same story through a lot of our friends and through a lot of the people that we meet going out, and talking to folks. So I'm hopeful that this film will continue to inspire the next generation of activists and of conservationists, and that it'll get people equally as excited and enthusiastic about preserving the natural beauty that lives in this world and trying to find a way to live in harmony with nature. That was one of his greatest messages, and that Rob wanted folks to find a way to extract their influence on the world and be part of it rather than impose will upon it.
What are you most proud about having been part of Sharkwater Extinction?
Well, I'm most proud that we're able to get it done, in the face of a lot of challenges. That Rob continued to direct us from afar, and that he made sure that we had the right tools and the right opportunities to allow it to come to fruition. I'm also most proud that my best friend, my little brother, gave everything he had for what he loved and for what he believed in. And he's my hero, and I'm extremely proud of him for everything that he's done for all of us, for sharks and for the rest of the species on this planet.
Tell me, what was your best or maybe even funniest memory of Rob?
There's a lot of good ones. As you know, he had just a tremendous smile, so I love playing back in my mind memories of that smile flashing across whatever it might be, a dance floor of Robbie dancing with his fists in the air. That's one of his favorite things to do. He loved to have a good time. He was not, afraid to turn the switch and just make sure that he took a moment to enjoy life. And that was a beautiful thing about him. One particular memory that I've told a couple people about is just, I don't even remember which country we were in, but somewhere down tropical, and Rob looks over at me and goes, "You like mangoes?" I was like, "Oh yeah, what's not to like about mangoes, right?" He's like, "Let's get some mangoes." And we stopped over at a roadside stand and we bought every mango they had. I think it was like a box of 30 or something. We proceeded to sit down on the curb and ate all of them. So we're sitting there just giggling and laughing with mango juice dripping down our chins, and he's got that big smile with mango pulp in his teeth, and it's a wonderful memory.
That's good. What's the next step for you in the quest to save sharks after Sharkwater Extinction releases?
Well, it's to keep on keeping on. You know, Alexandra, there's a lot to be done on this mission. You know, this is just one more door that we're opening up along the path. This film is going to be tremendously important, and it gives us quite a voice to activate an army, but the work is not yet done. So, got to get back into the field and work into the projects that we've been a part of, and to continue to make film and documentary about what's going on, so that we can continue to allow people to become part of the solution for this, right? And I wholeheartedly believe, as we talked about earlier, that this project will inspire a lot of people, and that will make massive waves and push the movement forward. So we get on that wave and we surf and we keep on moving forward, and we make sure that we save sharks and we save the oceans. Because like Robbie, I'm not going to let this go down on our watch. Make sure we give it everything that we have.
Okay, good for you. Thank you for your work in saving sharks, and thank you so much for talking to me today.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra.